Alright, well now we have two full choruses of this blues in D, this funky blues in D. Now we can put the whole thing together. So let's quickly review all the pieces, make sure everybody's on the same page, and then we'll play the whole thing. So we start off with this little slide targeting our root note on D. Okay, that's a good trick. If you can figure out the root note of your key you're in, where that is on the B string, you can always do that little slide and start your solo there. So that's what we do here. Then a little variation of that where we go 2 frets higher and back, right? And then we do our little motif for this song where it goes G to F. Then we go over to the 4 chord, slight bend. Okay, then we do our motif again. Now we do the turnaround for the first chorus. That's the same lick here, but up 2 frets. So we slide into the 6th fret of the G string. Blast up to the 5th fret of the B. 8th fret of B with a slight bend. Then we do the same thing. Slide into 4, 3 over here on the G chord. And then we do our little chromatic walk. 5, 4, 3 on the high E string. 1 to 2 with a hammer on. And remember, this has some juicy stuff in there. 5, flat 5, 4, minor 3rd, major 3rd, root 7th. So that's using some theoretical tricks, which kind of might sound scary if you're new to this, but really you can see those are kind of right next to each other, right? So it makes sense to do that. They happen to be very close together, and knowledge of those can be very helpful for us. Okay, and continuing that knowledge, we chord tone target our 3rd here with the minor 3rd. And we do this little F chord looking type shape here for our D chord. So it starts in the middle of the chord, goes high, back to middle, down low, right, with a little slide. Then we'll start a slide on the highest note of that little shape and walk back down this way. Chromatically to the 7th, hammer on to our little motif thing of the G to the F sharp. So that part is. Excellent. Okay, now we go over to the G7 chord, our 4 chord on the 2nd chorus through, and we'll start that sort of the same way, accenting the minor 3rd into the major 3rd. Did a little too long there. Careful not to do that. If you do the slide a little too long, it will add an extra note to your measure. I'm not really thinking about this as its own note, but rather a little slide into this real first note. Okay, as opposed to... See, it takes a little longer to get there, so be careful. You treat that as just sort of a sound, not its own real note. Okay, that part might be a little tricky if you're new to this, but that's a really great thing to do on guitar, where you're stuff like that, where you're coming back to the same note over and over again. Can be a really cool thing. So if that's new to you, practice that a little bit, because I think you'll get some mileage out of that. So it's essentially the same thing. It's that, but with some open D, excuse me, not open, but going back to our D note in there on the 10th fret. So we have slide to 12, 10, 12, 10, 13, 10. Do that part with a pull off if you want, or pick each of the notes and kind of decide which one you like the sound of better. Gives it a little bit of a different sound. I think I'm gonna pick each one. And then we slide up with the pinky to the 15th, resolve it to the 3rd finger on the 14th fret of our high E string. Little motif of our G to F sharp again. Okay, now we turn that part around. That's a A7 with the flat 5 into the 5, the 3rd, the 5th, the 7th again. Those are the chord tones we're playing. Fret-wise, it'd be 11 to 12 on high E, and then down to the 14th fret of B, back to the 12th fret of high E, 15th fret of high E. Now we're going to do sort of a reverse of that same sort of shape there, starting with our pinky at the 13th fret of high E, then 10th fret of high E, then 12th fret of B, 10th fret of G. And if you want to know the chord tones of that, it would be the 7th of G, the 5th, the 3rd, and the 7th again. Kind of a cool little thing. Leave those two notes together. Give some dissonance there. Be sure not to take too long to slide up there. It's a quick. We basically go right there. I get the sound of the slide a little bit, but if you're having trouble with that, you can go right to the note. That's fine. I think it's almost harder to do that. Might as well. I have to move my hand up here anyway. I might as well let my finger touch. Okay? And that's the whole solo, both choruses. Why don't we go ahead and give that a rip with the backing track. Alright, great job. We've now learned our second solo. You can now play tastefully in a funk context. We've learned how to target some notes on the B string, and we've learned a little bit more about how chord tones work and how we can make some exciting music with them. I look forward to seeing you in the next lesson where we'll learn a minor blues.